Hi everyone, Steve Crosby here. Welcome to this edition of Monday Morning Musing, where we are continuing on the implications of what it meant to be called followers of the way or the way. I want to move on to the second B, and that is the B of belonging. For the followers of the way in the early church, what was the constitutive element of their belonging? Because if I just said in our earlier session that one of the fundamental realities of being a human being is relationality and sociality, that works out in belonging. That works out in family, in tribe, in community, in the synagogue, and in the New Creation Church. Now, I'm going to talk about the family thing sometime this fall. I'm going to do a whole series on Ephesians 1, 9 through 10, on some implications of a specific word there that doesn't get translated well into English. So I'm going to hold off on the family side until later this fall. But I'm just going to say this. Family, including the family of God, the new family, those new relationships were, as well as the natural blood relationships, were more deeply meaningful to human existence metaphysically than any of us could possibly believe. But beyond that, what constituted their gathering? What cemented them together? Well, first of all, is that transformative immersion that I spoke to you about. One way or the other, they had all had an awakening. You could call it a conversion. You can call it whatever you want. To the dawning of that there is a new space and I can be in it and I will be in it with others. And it's not necessarily accomplished through cognitive processes. You don't see very many people, one or two exceptions, maybe the Ethiopian eunuch, but even then he didn't understand what he was reading. Studying the Torah and coming to know, hey, I need to accept Jesus. That's one of the fundamental arguments of justification theory. The law supposedly is going to lead you to Christ. You're supposed to you're supposed to read it and study it and see its impossibility. It puts you into depression and then you cry out for Jesus. The only problem is Paul didn't get into the kingdom that way. Abraham didn't get that way. It didn't even work for Paul. Paul said he did well in Judaism. The law was not a burden to him. That's a conversation for another time. Through an intervention of God that we cannot really explain, an apocalypsis, a revelation, an opening, an understanding, they had been put together into a non-rational, non-utilitarian, meaning a community where we don't exist as commodities for each other, a community based on faith, and by faith I mean fidelity in relationship, trust in relationship, where there's an operating ethos that is based on fidelity in relationship that is not utilitarian. It's not about using you to accomplish some goal. It's about giving myself to be of service to you. For those who come from a Protestant or a very anti-sacramental background in their church upbringing, what I'm going to say next is probably going to be very hard for you to swallow. I'm simply telling you that it is an absolute fact. For the first 300 years or so of church existence, the thing that defined belonging was the Eucharist. It was the element that bound us all together. They gathered around the Eucharist. The point of belonging was the Eucharist. And as they learned, and as the meaning of that started to unpack, Colossians chapter 2 starts to kick in. And Paul's prayer is like this: that you being knit together in love, so that the mysteries of Christ could be made known. If you ask a typical Christian, how are the mysteries of Christ made known? They're going to say from expository preaching, from study of the Bible. Paul says, Colossians chapter 2, that being knit together in love is the key that unlocks biblical understanding, not your study time. And I'm a study time guy, but I know its limits. And where is that fusion? That's the word I'll use. Their belonging was a fusion of spiritually reconstituted beings with a new set of ethos around this thing that became the literal act of their bond. As a matter of fact, the Eucharist was so important. For the first 600 or 700 years of the church, the main bishop of the city would actually lay hands on the elements and appoint a deacon to go take it to another neighborhood. Why? Because there's one. It makes us one. When we partake in this together, it is the sign and the power, the thing that literally keeps us as one, as participators in Christ and participators in salvation and participators with one another. And they kept that up for 600 or 700 years until it just became an administrative possibility. And the whole idea of a local church wasn't geographic. And I have read entire treatises on the importance of a church in a geography and in charismatic environments. You know, I'm an apostle of this geography and I'm an apostle of that geography. No. Local meant your localized sharing of the Eucharist in your locality connected you to the main thing. It's about Catholicity. So local church was not an administrative or governmental differentiation of offices and ministries. Local meant the place you came to partake in the Eucharist, so that your place in and with the whole was made known and maintained, and all the beautiful spiritual overtones to that thought. So, the last thing I want to say to you about belonging has to do with the way the ancient church, particularly the Eastern church, did their business. In our world, it goes like this. If you believe correctly, we'll let you belong, and you better behave. The ancient church's order was belong first, behave second, believe third. And what do I mean by that? It goes like this. You're welcome to come among us. Come among us. Participate in the way. Come and see how we do life. And you would be assigned a spiritual father, a mentor, whoever, for anywhere from 18 to 36 months who would disciple you. Notice, discipleship before salvation. Explaining the way to you. But better than explaining, because that gets into the teaching side, living the way before you. Letting you see them under pressure. Do they pay their bills on time? How do they treat their neighbors? Behavior. Discipling you. This is what it means to be a follower of the way. And then at the end of that period, you would make a conscious, quote unquote, decision. Yes, I want to be a follower of Jesus. Notice, I want to be part of the way. It's got nothing to do with my soul going to heaven, my little personal assurance in my personal little heart, making sure my personal heart isn't hurt, and Jesus fills the empty place in my personal heart. No, it was about a commitment to a type of human existence. Then you would be, they would do a deliverance service, they'd baptize you, and you are now a follower of Jesus, and you're part of the ocean. You're going to experience him individually through that process. Boom, you're immersed in the ocean, the space called the church, and you're now part of the new creation because you're in new creation space. Do you see how different that is? Again, I'm going to repeat for effect. Here's how we present the gospel. First, you got to believe right, and when you do, we'll let you belong with us. And boy, you better behave or you're going to be in trouble. You got to start tithing, and you're going to go to the discipleship class. That is not how the ancient church did it when it comes to belonging. They let you belong first. They discipled you, which led to a point of belief and choice and decision and human volition. I want to follow Jesus. Totally different. And that is how you belonged to the way in the early church. I'll see you next time.